Welcome back to the Bitter to Better podcast. There's a lot going on in this episode. For instance, as you can see me. We are trying out some new things here because all the girlies are putting their podcasts on the YouTubes. So here we go. I'm in my home office, better known as the Shimmer Shack. There are crickets outside my window. Maybe you'll be able to hear them, maybe you won't. Josh is upstairs on a work meeting and I can hear him, though my door is closed, so it's a little better now. But also, due to the wonders of editing, you might not hear any of this by the time this is all edited and put together. And also what comes with video is like my hair needing to be a little bit on point. You being able to see this pimple that has decided to pop up on my head. Hormonal acne. So we're getting what we're getting. As you know, if you've listened to the last few sporadic episodes of the podcast, I'm doing more of this just press record and go because the earlier days of the podcast, I really was doing this. I need to be in a perfectly quiet space. Everything has to be prepared, a little more scripted, because I'm trying to get advice and guidance out there that's helpful and not waste people's time. I still don't want to waste people's time, and I still want to give guidance and advice that's helpful, but it's also going to have to be a little more on my busy mom life terms. So here we are. But I think that appeals to my audience, which is moms who are dating. Because that's the other thing. We're doing a bit of a slight rebranding around here with Coach Tracy. That's the brand. Where my work is always for women who are dating. But I really want to niche in on mothers who are dating and looking to partner and be in relationships. People who have gone through or are going through a breakup, especially who have kids, because it adds just different layers to this whole thing. That being said, it does not mean that if you don't have children that my advice can't be helpful, because it absolutely is. I don't know, 90% of it, 80% of it just applies to women. I always say 75% of it applies to men and women. A lot of it is just basic things to do and not do in order to have more effective, enjoyable, and efficient, that's the word. Empowered, effective, and enjoyable dating. Things to do and not do. Anyway, now that I'm done with that spiel, welcome to the Bitter to Better podcast. There will be a visual component to it now, at least most of the times if I'm not looking straight up wild. So, here we are. And today's episode is about preparing to date in the fall, or in mom speak, during back to school time. The kids are back in school or about to be, depending on what part of the country you live in. I am in Connecticut, and kids went back to school this week. We do the back to school before Labor Day thing. I know New York does after Labor Day. From my calculation, they're the last or some of the last to go back to school, because they're also some of the last to get out of school, because they begin out of school the end of June around my birthday, which I was never about. But anyway, here we are. I digress. So I just want to talk about preparing for dating in the fall. And I would like to do this seasonally. So I would like to also, I'm planning preparing for dating in the winter, preparing for dating in the spring, preparing for dating in the summer, my favorite dating season. Anyway, so for the fall, as a mother, preparing to date, what are things to think about? What are things to do? My first thought is around the fact that the kids are going back to school, right? So there are things to think about in terms of, on one hand, during the day, your kids are in school. So if you are someone who works from home or has, part-time schedule with work or something like that, you do have more flexibility or freedom during the day, during the daytime hours with the kids being in school. But also what you need to prepare for are things like school drop-off or pick-up if you transport your kids, or being at the bus stop if you need to be at the bus stop to get them off the bus. So you're going to be factoring in these things in your dating life and dating world. So I think of it for me, I have my calendar and I have an alarm that goes off every day to remind me to pick my kids up from school. Because 99% of the time I'll remember that, but I get honed in on some stuff. And for me, my mind is constantly like, you have until this time to get stuff done before these kids come home and wreck it all. Wrecking it all, meaning the house itself, your mental stability, your focus, all of these sort of things, right? So I try to get all my stuff done before, for me, about 2:30. That's when I start getting myself prepped to pick them up. And so what that means for me is sometimes I can get really into what I'm doing around that time, and I want to make sure I have an alarm that like snaps me out of it and has me go get my kids. Um, and for example, right now as we speak, I'm recording this podcast and hoping to record one or two other episodes and just batch the episodes. I'm doing that right now at 12:50 p.m. on a Thursday so that I can tend to the kids or do tasks that don't require me showing up in a coherent manner, because once these kids get here, it's all over. Okay. And so here we are. So one of the things you want to think about is during the day, if I am someone who's at home during the day, I do have more of those daytime hours. So because the kids are at school. So I remember when I was dating and the kids were in school, I would aim to uh, schedule daytime dates when I could, which is great for coffee or like a brunch type thing. It would, free up my time for the evenings when the kids are around and I have to cook dinner and I want to spend time with them. Or I might have evening work sessions, things like that. So just keep thinking about how you can tailor dating life to daytime hours when possible. If you're someone who's working during the day, especially out of the home, maybe you do a lunch hour and you literally just have a quick coffee, things like that. Which also, let me digress just for a second, because the current discourse on the social medias is this whole thing about accepting coffee dates and not accepting coffee dates. I definitely think this deserves a bigger episode. And I understand the points on both sides of why people would be okay with the first date as a coffee date and why people wouldn't be. A lot of it has to do with mindset. But if you've been in this camp for a while, you know that I am pro coffee date, pro quick drink, pro walk in the park, because I don't know if I'm going to like you. You don't know if you're going to like me. And I'm not trying to awkwardly sit through a 5-course meal with somebody who I don't want to entertain any longer. But again, conversation for another time. So being able to have more options or flexibility of doing something in the daytime. Also, though, what I was getting at earlier was around my alarm going off to pick up the kids. So, like, you're also scheduling around, for some people, the need to go pick up the kids or be at the bus stop or be home for the kids. So I recommend putting something in your calendar that kind of blocks that block out so that whatever you're doing, there's a stop point. And again, if you're me, then you're setting an alarm that reminds you each day. Also, you want to be thinking about childcare options and how those may shift for you. Maybe during the summer, kids were in all-day camp, or maybe they were in daycare, or maybe you had arrangements with friends or family members to watch them at certain times during the summer. So now you're thinking about, is my child in an after-school program? When does that program end? So does that give me extended time in the afternoon hours to do things, to go on dates? Or to do a date earlier in the day and work later in the day, but you're factoring these things in and trying to plan for this. You're also thinking about things like playdates. Can those serve also as childcare as well? Like if you're setting up playdates with different parents and you know that on Wednesday they're going to be at so-and-so's house, or this parent is, taking the kids to the playground or something like that. How can you plan around that? And this goes into that whole idea of building your social network and your social supports and having mom friends, which I'm excited to talk about because I have updates on that. I think the second episode of this podcast was about mom friends that I met in my new town. I have updates on the mom friend situation, and I have some future conversations coming up with moms in my life that I am thinking of titling Mom Moments. And what I would like it to be manifesting is a monthly series in which one of the episodes of this podcast each month is a conversation with one of my mom friends. So that's loading. But with the play dates, if you're forming a network of mom friends, or just connecting with some parents in your child's classes, you can have that as an option and a support. And it's great when you meet some other single moms where you guys can like, be really reciprocal in caring for, watching the kids while the other mom, does go on a date. And that becomes like this wonderfully mutually supportive dating network or dating support. There's also the idea of extracurricular activities, which tend to start back up in the fall. Like I just registered my son for soccer and for swim lessons. So thinking about, are there things there that are drop off type things where you can also utilize that, for a quick coffee date or something like that. And there are plenty of things that are not drop off as well. But all I'm saying is you're wanting to really be thinking about planning, strategizing, seeing what you can move here and there. Also, again, other parents who their kids are in the same activity. So they might bring your kid, you might bring their kid, switching off in that way. Again, building that social network is very helpful in support in all ways, but also in dating it can be. So think about that as you're going into the new school year. Are there connections that you can and want to make with other parents that can help build that support network for you and your kids? There's also going into like fall wardrobe, hair, makeup, fragrances. The other thing about doing this visually is that like I have notes, and you can see me looking up at my notes. When it's just audio, you don't see all that. But anyway, so I think for me, because I am a warm weather, summer loving girl, sometimes I can get a little down at the change of weather, it getting colder and stuff like that. But one of the things that gets me excited about going into fall is the wardrobe change, because I like clothes, fashion, stuff like that. So you want to be thinking about your fall wardrobe for dates. Going back a ways, back in my YouTube days, I had a video, and again, if I'm doing really well, I'll link this in the show notes, but I had a video about being date ready, and my concept of having like 5 outfits that you can put on rotate so that you can go on date after date after date. You don't have to think too hard about it. You don't have to have reasons to say, oh no, I can't go, any of that. 5 outfits that you really like, because most dates, or I would say a lot of the dates, let's say, don't end up being second dates. You're not at risk of the person seeing you in the thing again, whatever. Have those 5 go-tos that are easy, that you love, that you like, and you can just rotate them. So now you would have had this for the summer, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so now you need to set this up for the fall. Look at the outfits, the pants, the jeans, the dresses, the skirts that you want to have going into the fall, the tops, all of that. So what I'm saying is you're doing this in advance. You're picking out 5 outfits that you're going to put on rotation, or you're identifying what's missing from your closet that you would like to bring into your closet so you can go shopping for these things. You can do the same with hair, makeup, fragrances. I've been getting into fragrances more and finding my signature key scents. And so I got heavy into it like for the summer, and I had my key summer scents. And now I'm looking at what are the fall scents that I want to lean into. So I'm kind of getting that all together. I would suggest you do the same thing for your dating life. Have your couple of fragrances that are go-tos for you. With hair, for me, I do a lot of braids in the summer when I know I'm going to be traveling or be in water, so that I don't have to tend to my hair. I will go more natural during the fall, at least for periods of the time where I know I'm not going in water and may not be traveling as much. So there's kind of a natural hair shift that happens for me. But maybe you want to be intentional about that hair shift. Maybe there's a new haircut that you want to do, or a new hairstyle you want to do as you go into the fall. So think about these things. For me, makeup is less of a thing. I don't wear makeup often at all. But if you're a makeup girly, you might have certain shades that you want to switch to. When it comes to tanning, so like I definitely get darker in the summer. With all the sun exposure, and that can impact my foundation. So when I do put on makeup, I do recognize that I have 2 different foundations, my summer foundation versus my winter foundation, because my skin color changes so significantly that I need to switch. So you're thinking about that. Do you need to be getting a new foundation because your summer shade was darker than your fall and winter shade will be? Or are there certain looks that you want to do, or certain colors that you want to use? What I'm saying here is let's plan for it. Let's be ready. Let's be ready to say yes to the dates that are happening in the fall. Okay, let's be ready to already know our wardrobe, know how we want to do our hair, have a quick go-to makeup plan, know the fragrances we want to wear. Okay. Also, what I suggest doing is prioritizing activities and experiences that you want to have during this time. Like being like, hey, by the time the fall is over, by the time we go into winter, I would have liked to go to a couple of festivals, do some sort of picking, apple picking, pumpkin picking, maybe have a certain Halloween experience, a corn maze or a haunted house. But by doing that, one, you're just working on living your best life and enjoying yourself. But two, you have great date ideas. And when somebody invites you out to a date, you can be like, oh yeah, like I'd love to do this haunted house, or I'd love to go to this festival. Already have some ideas of things you want to be doing just because you want to enjoy yourself. And when somebody else invites you and they want to join you too, you have some ideas, right? And then by the end of the fall, you can look back and say, I had some fun, regardless of how many dates you had or didn't have, because you were doing those things anyway because you enjoyed them or wanted to try them. But also, even better, yes, if you also met some great dates in the process as well, right? You know, I'm always talking about painting the vision of the thing you want, your ideal partner, your ideal life, your ideal parenting situation, your ideal date, all of these different things. So, my phone is going off. Great. Look at me being unprepared. So you want to think in advance on like, yeah, are there concerts coming up that I want to see? Are there local bars that I want to go to because they're going to do live music? Think in advance and look at, so September, October, November. What am I putting on my calendar? One thing I love to do is print out like paper, monthly paper calendars. I have mine right here, right now, where like I can write out ideas of stuff. So like, hey, 2 Saturdays out of the month I want to go do something. I want to do a solo date, and I want to do a friends gathering or going out with friends, or put it on the calendar. Dream it up, manifest it, write about it. And then when those opportunities come up, you also can say, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. That was one of my favorite things about dating, was I had ideas of things I wanted to do. And when someone would ask me if I had any ideas, I'm like, yeah, but actually, it's wonderful. And I would say probably lastly is the thought of like self-evolution. That's an ongoing, constant life thing. And as we are evolving, we are able to be, we are becoming the best versions of ourselves, for our kids, and for any future partner, dating partner, or committed relationship partner, friends, being an employee, any of these things. So what I'm getting at is thinking about what are things that you've identified about yourself or your circumstances or your behavior that maybe you'd like to make some shifts to. Identifying what those things are so you can be proactive about them. Are you wanting to get on your fitness game? Are you wanting to get on your skincare routine? Are you wanting to spend more time with the kids or spend time with them in a certain way? Are you wanting to help them work on certain skills? So even though I'm not dating anymore, I absolutely am in this place right now thinking, okay, how do I want the fall to go? One of the things that's coming up for me a lot are what are the skills that I want my kids to be gaining and learning. My youngest son, we're working on him just buckling his seatbelt fully independently. We're working on him getting shirts on easily independently. These are like 2 little goals that I've identified that I want for him. My older son, I want him to be a strong swimmer. He can swim, but I want him to be a strong swimmer. So I got it. I'm enrolling him in swim lessons. I have my bonus sons, my 2 sons, Josh's sons, that we're thinking about, okay, what are the skills we're wanting them to pick up and to learn around the house. Over the summer, I did kind of a housekeeping camp, which was really just 1 or 2 days in which I walked around and showed the boys the different responsibilities that we want them to have, and I showed them how to do them. They all already have some chores, but I showed them, hey, this is how you clean up a mess after yourself. This is how many paper towel pieces to use or not use. Here's a mess that requires more of a big towel rather than a paper towel. Here's how we scoop something up. Like practicing these skills that at some point we expect them to have, but oftentimes we realize we have not actually shown them, modeled them, taught them. And a lot of these things take practice. So, in the fall, I'm having thoughts about, like, we're going into a new school year. They're all older. They're in a new grade. What would I like to see them come out of this school year having accomplished or mastered, or having made progress toward, right? So that's where I am with when I think of like evolution. So I know I started with self evolution and I went on and talked about them, but also for myself. For me, I'm getting back in my fitness game in this 39-year-old body that's been doing things that I'm not used to. And what else? I'm getting more and more honed in and serious about building my coaching business than I ever have before. Um, Showing up on this podcast consistently and in this way is part of that. So I definitely have these things that I'm thinking about. We're wedding planning. We're getting married in Riviera Maya, Mexico in April of 2026. And so I'm thinking about what do I want that to look like. So all of these things, self-evolution, that's always happening, and it's very helpful when it's happening deliberately, when you're identifying things that you would like to change and shift. Because in the dating world, in your dating experience, that's only going to benefit you, right? You're going to be showing up as your best self, your most confident self, your most worked on version of yourself. Also, what that can do is it might change some of your expectations of dating partners, raise some of your standards, lower some of your standards if they need to be. Like, what I'm saying is, though, you're able to start calibrating what you're looking for in a partner and what you need from a partner. So these were just some of my thoughts on preparing to date in the fall. You want to be thinking about the fact that the kids are at school during the daytime. You want to be thinking about pick up and drop off or having to be available to them to get off the bus. You want to be thinking about childcare options, after school programs, play dates, extracurricular activities, which also brings up forming your social network and your social support with other mom friends or other parents. You want to be thinking about your wardrobe, hair, makeup, fragrances, things that are about you when you show up in spaces and you show up on dates. You want to think about your prioritized activities. What do you want to experience in the next few months? Festivals, concerts, you name it. But identify those things for yourself and give them to yourself, and also offer them as options for dates. And then lastly, self-evolution. What are some things that you want to work on or be changing or shifting about yourself, your circumstances, your behavior? Take it from there. Talk to you guys soon.